I said the next analysis I was going to be releasing was going to be a very famous fighter who definitely supports my hypothesis that chin is the most important attribute. No shade to Roy Jones. I think he's amazing. Arguably the best of all time. I would probably argue that. But I don't know too much about boxing history. But when I see him, I think a lot of people feel that way. Let's get into it. So this fight starts off with his opponent trying to establish a jab. Roy Jones gets low and kind of leans in to purposefully bait out his opponent's jab. Just, you see what he just, like he has such a great understanding of range, and we're going to talk about that. Just a great understanding of range, and obviously some of the greatest reflexes of all time. Just swat. So now a lot of times in my videos you hear me say I don't know if that's intentional or not. When I'm watching fighters, I'm like, I don't know if he meant to do that. I don't know what he meant by that. But despite the results of action with Roy, Floyd, Bud, people on that level, everything they do is intentional. Roy is trying to time his jab, and we're going to see how quickly he does, by the way. It's at 2 minutes and 53 seconds. Again, look at him leaning forward. Look at him leaning forward. He closes the range. You see him take that little step forward. He's getting just barely in range so he can bait out his opponent's jab. And then look at this jab that he throws out. A BS jab. That jab does not matter. It's that jab, when I say not matter, it's not meant to do damage. It's not meant to land. It's all part of a setup that we're going to talk about real quick. A few seconds later, what do you have? He's leaning in, wide open guard, which is perfect for straight punches to come down the middle. Leaning in, purposely closing the range, leaning in, waiting. He's patient. When you set a trap, it's all about patience. It's all about waiting for the trap to spring. Just again, down parry. Just see the left hand, just barely swat, bam, cross over top. He's gonna do that again, and we're gonna talk about how quickly he builds several foundations at once. Now you see how quick that cross was? That's how quick your hand should be to the like button and the notification bell and the subscription bell, but you gotta hit the subscription button before you get the notification bell. You already know the order of things. Let's go. But before we talk about what's going to happen in the next like minute or so, we have to talk about what happened in the past to lead up to it. So we're going back in time. We just were ahead, but now we're going back. This little level change that Roy is finna do, I'm frame by frame, so it's going to take me a little while to get there. Let me get there. Boom. Subtle little level change. Look at the reaction from his opponent. At first, Glenn Kelly's like, oh, he gets shook up by it, and he's expecting offense, right? So the feint elicits the reaction, but then more importantly than the initial reaction, how does he respond afterward? It brings him forward a little bit, it tightens up his guard, and he's walking towards Roy. Basically, he's approaching Roy. We see Roy walking him down, and then what's he gonna do again? He's gonna do the level change. Slight level change. His opponent now is more comfortable with that level change, and he leans forward a little bit, so his opponent is also jabbing at it. So before initial reaction was like, oh, he gets jarred a little bit, now he's comfortable, high guard, jab. Okay, so we're building off of this. And if I had to guess what's going through Roy Jones' mind right now, he's probably thinking, see, y'all don't understand. You don't want to spook the chicken before you get him in the coop. All right, let's look at another level change feint that happened. This is all within seconds of each other. There goes another level change feint. Boom. Initial reaction. Oh, I'm expecting offense. But then look what he does immediately after. So he just backed up. Look how he takes these slow steps forward. He's comfortable. He has his high guard up. High guard is very important. The way he has his high guard held. And then you see Roy raising that lead hand. Everything he does is about deception. When we talk about masters of deception, Roy is a master of deception. And so lead hand up, and it's right in front of the high guard, and his opponent now is walking forward a little bit. Kelly's kind of comfortable. Now look at what Roy does here. He kind of level changes again. He gets low just a little bit, and then boom, he jabs at the guard. Now at the very beginning I said he's a master of range, meaning that if he wants to land, he absolutely can. This jab was not meant to land. It was meant to manipulate the guard. When I was first watching this, I'm like, I don't know why he did that. Well, when you figure out the actions of why fighters do what they do, it's all contextual. Like sometimes it's hard to figure out why did he jab at the guard, but I think it's guard manipulation. And the next example that we bring up is I'm gonna demonstrate why I believe that is the case. So we're gonna be in a very similar situation to what we just were in a few seconds ago. So he's leaning forward. His arm is swinging, by the way, left arm swinging. constant motion, so it makes it hard to predict. You can see his opponent kind of flinching because that left arm is moving. He doesn't know if he's going to jump in at any time. And so if you look at his opponent's guard, high guard like this, high guard tight up to the center, meaning there's openings around the side, which Roy jabbed at that guard purposefully to do that. So when Roy jumps in, he leans in, his opponent's like, okay, the level change isn't getting too much of a reaction out of him anymore because he's used to it. He's been conditioned to not expect too much off of the level change. High guard tight. So when Roy level changes and jumps in, you see his opponent like this, his hands cross down the middle, down the center line, because he's expecting a straight punch, he's expecting a jab, because that's what he just got conditioned with. But then Roy jumps around with the left hook, and then in the process he also throws another left hook on the break that misses. But that's just it's so small, so it's not really that simple, but it is kind of simple, but it's so quick, it's so small, like all these setups in such a short amount of time. And his opponent is escaping. Now watch how quick Roy catches him resetting. So his opponent is, you know, laterally moving, breaks his stance, and he tries to reset right here. Roy just closes the distance in a heartbeat. I said when he wants to land, he absolutely can. And again, it's all off the level change. So all the level changes have led to jab up top, hook up top. So when he level changes, what's his opponent do? Elbows come way up, leaves a perfect opening to the body. Now, as I said in the beginning, and I gotta say it again, everything is intentional. And whenever we talk about traps, the most important thing I look for that helps me identify if a fighter is setting a trap is context and body language. So like, for example, I can ask the question, why is Roy putting his right hand out in front of his left? Like, why does he just have his right hand out there? I think it's another bait. It's another trap he's setting up. That's why I mean he's setting up multiple things at once. He has where he leans forward to bait out the jab. We're going to talk about another one, but right here, this is another one to bait out the jab, purposely putting out his right hand to invite the lead hand of his opponent. And I said body language and context. First of all, Roy's not going to put himself in a vulnerable position unless he's setting something up to where he can get any type of benefit from putting himself in that vulnerable position. So we talk about context. He put his right hand out and then he jabs at the guard. Again, he knows damn well he's out of range. That jab is not even close to landing. Roy knows that, but look how his opponent is reacting. Now, his opponent is could be considered overreacting, but he's in there with Roy Jones Jr. He's fighting like a literal superhuman, so I mean, it's fair. And we kind of talked about reactions and composure in the most recent video. Everybody has a plan until ... For example, they face Roy Jones Jr. Everybody has a plan until they're in there with him. So those two things, right hand extended for seemingly no reason, jab at the guard for, we kind of saw partially a reason for the jab to the guard, but it's like, what do those things even mean? Well, we're going to contextualize it. Again, when we start putting the pieces together, it all makes sense. He's going to lean forward again. You see his opponent starts lurching forward also, because he's like, oh, there's an easy position to attack. In other words, there's bait from Roy Jones Jr. Everything Roy is doing is to manipulate his opponent. So when Roy leans forward, his opponent comes forward and his opponent jabs. Now, again, Roy is like, he's not in range. Boom, just slightly moves his head, right hand to the side. By the way, if you look at the difference in reactions to each other for Kelly and Roy, it's we'll talk more about that in a second. But then the other thing is, Roy's also not reacting too much to the jab. He's not trying to counter it because he wants more commitment. So, by the way, those three things, right hand extended, fake little jab just to play with the guard, and then him leaning forward, all of those things are three different baits for the same trap. And it seems like the most effective bait is when he leans forward, so he's going to do it again. He's not jabbing at the guard and he's not extending his right hand. He does have his guard down and he's leaning forward now. So the lean forward seems to be the thing that's bringing out his opponent's desired reaction the most. So we're talking about reactions, right? Reactions and respect. When Roy jabs at Kelly's guard, look how Kelly reacts. Whole guard discombobulated, arms all over the place, and then you can see he loses balance, almost falls a little bit. So he gives a lot of respect to Roy. Now let's look how Roy respects Kelly's jab. Let's look at the difference in respect. Roy just like complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So I think that's one of the most underrated. I mean, we kind of talked about that composure, but kind of is tied in with the idea of respect. How much respect do you give your opponent? How much have they earned, and vice versa? Because they can be expending a lot of energy. They can easily fall for traps if they have a lot of respect for your movements, and the same or the opposite won't be. The opposite will be true if you don't have the same amount of respect for them. But simply put, when fights have such an imbalance of respect, there's usually a reason, first of all, and that usually leads to decisive outcomes. Now, again, 3 different baits for the same trap. That's what I mean, multiple foundations at once. Right hand extended, that didn't work. Now, the 2 that seemingly work at bringing out his opponent's jab is Roy's jab and when Roy leans forward. So Roy is going to circle around, double jab at the guard, not at his opponent, but at his opponent's guard. Why? Because it's all with the intent of bringing out his opponent's jab. He also closes the distance a little bit. You can see him kind of take a slight step, and now they're a lot closer than how they've been previously. So he's leaning forward, opening the guard. There it is. What we've been seeing, the same lean forward. He's giving it. He's giving the bait. His opponent takes it. He's been waiting for it. And now look at the difference in the commitment to the jab that Kelly gives. Kelly steps in with the jab, and the jab is actually in range. That's what Roy was looking for. And you can see when he finally gets the exact reaction that he wanted, the trap is sprung. Bait, finally sprung. It's about patience, right? So all this is 152, meaning it's a little bit over a minute into the fight, and Roy established so many things in that short amount of time. And this is the first round, by the way, so it's not even about damage. He's not even trying to hurt his opponent. He's just reading him. He's just studying him, and he's already shut down the most important tool in his toolbox. Well, not shut it down, but he has the foundation to completely shut it down if he wants to, and that's just within 1 minute. But don't worry, there will be more. Give me time. But it'll be so much easier if you hit the notification bell, because then when the next Roy Jones Jr. vid comes out, inevitably quite soon, you'll be there for it, and you'll get more analysis and fight science breakdown on the atomic level. But let's keep exploring the philosophy of fight science together. Immortality Serum out.